The calm before the storm. Emerges empire. Earth had always been a peaceful planet. The people of Earth had long overcome their wars, hunger, and suffering. They had united, focusing their efforts on exploring the stars. Their empire, built on years of advancement and unity, stretched far beyond their homeworld. Colonies had been established on distant planets, and Earth's reach seemed infinite. In the center of this great empire, Earth had built an unbreakable defense system. The people of Earth had faced challenges before, but their determination to survive and prosper had always been their greatest strength. They lived with the belief that their civilization was untouchable, that they were safe from any outside threat. But all of that changed one fateful morning. A signal came from one of Earth's farthest colonies, a small world known as Celestura. It was a peaceful place, surrounded by rolling hills and lush forests. The humans who lived there had little to fear. Yet, what the message contained was something none of them could have ever imagined. The transmission was a simple one, but its meaning was clear. Celestura was under attack. The colonists had fought bravely, but they were no match for the invaders. In their final moments, they sent out a distress signal, begging Earth for help. The message ended with a single image, a massive fleet of ships, dark and menacing, closing in on the colony. The attackers were unlike anything Earth had ever encountered. The people of Earth were stunned. How could this happen? How could their empire, which had been so strong, so secure, be threatened by an unknown enemy? The leaders of Earth scrambled to understand what had happened. But the image left them with more questions than answers. Who were these invaders? And why had they chosen Celestura as their target? In the heart of Earth's capital, high-ranking officials gathered in an emergency meeting. The room was tense, filled with whispers and worried glances. The council of leaders, each one an expert in their field, discussed the matter urgently. The images from Celestura were clear. An enormous alien fleet had arrived at the colony, overwhelming the defenses. But they hadn't just destroyed the colony, they had wiped out everything. Cities were reduced to rubble, fields turned to ash. The once thriving colony was now nothing but a ghost. "We need to know who these invaders are," said General Kane, the head of Earth's defense forces. His voice was steady, but his eyes were filled with concern. "We cannot wait any longer. We need to act." Scientists and military analysts worked day and night to identify the alien fleet. After several hours of intense study, they made a shocking discovery. The invaders were known as the Xeraxians, a brutal species that had left their mark across the galaxy. The Xeraxians were feared by every civilization they encountered. They were known for their ruthlessness and their desire to conquer and destroy. No one had ever been able to stop them. The Xeraxians were not like any enemy Earth had ever faced. They didn't just attack, they destroyed everything in their path. Entire planets, civilizations, wiped from existence with terrifying precision. And now, they had come to Earth's doorstep. But why? What had Earth done to provoke them? The answer was still unclear, but one thing was certain: Earth was in danger. As Earth's leaders tried to comprehend the enormity of the situation, a strange calm fell over the planet. People went about their daily lives, unaware of the danger that loomed above them. But for those in power, for those who knew what was coming, the calm felt like the quiet before the storm. On Earth's surface, the cities continued to buzz with activity. The markets were busy, the streets crowded with people. But above the Earth, in the vastness of space, a battle was already unfolding. The Xeraxian fleet was on the move, and soon they would be at Earth's doorstep. General Kane watched the stars through a window in his command center. The cold, dark void stretched out endlessly before him. He had seen many things in his career, but nothing like this. The destruction of Celestura had shaken him to his core. The images of the colony in ruins played over and over in his mind. He knew that Earth's survival depended on how quickly they could act. The military began to mobilize. Ships were being prepared for battle. The elite fleet of Earth's 700,000 warships, the strongest and most advanced the galaxy had ever known, was being assembled. It was their only chance. But even as the ships readied themselves for war, General Kane couldn't shake the feeling of dread that settled deep within him. He knew that facing the Xeraxians wouldn't be easy. They were a powerful enemy, and Earth was not invincible. No one knew what would happen when the two forces met, but one thing was certain: Earth would not go down without a fight. As the days passed, Earth's military leaders worked tirelessly to prepare for the coming battle. The ships were outfitted with the latest weaponry, and battle strategies were developed. But all of this seemed like little preparation compared to what they were about to face. The Xeraxians were coming, and Earth had no choice but to fight back. The war for humanity's survival was about to begin. In the quiet of the night, as Earth's leaders made their final preparations, the stars above seemed to grow darker. The calm before the storm had ended, and the storm was coming, fast. The discovery of the threat. As the days passed since the transmission from Celestara, Earth's leaders scrambled to uncover more about the mysterious alien invaders. Every piece of information about the Xeraxians was scrutinized, but the truth was chilling. Nothing could have prepared them for what they were about to learn. The Xeraxians were no ordinary species. They were a cold, calculating race of conquerors who had swept through the galaxy, leaving destruction in their wake. From the fragments of intelligence Earth had gathered, they learned that the Xeraxians were highly organized, with a military strategy that seemed impossible to counter. Their fleet was vast, and their weapons were unlike anything humanity had ever seen. At the military headquarters, General Kane sat hunched over a holographic display, watching as more information came through. The alien fleet's movements were being tracked by Earth's best satellites, and the picture began to emerge. The Xeraxians were headed directly for Earth, their path unmistakable. Dr. Ava Cruz, one of Earth's top scientists, paced nervously beside him. "This is bad, General. We've never faced anything like them. They've been traveling from system to system, leaving nothing behind. Entire civilizations just erased." She stopped, her eyes narrowing in thought. "We need to know more about how they fight. We can't rely solely on our warships. We need to understand their weaknesses." The warships of Earth, though powerful, were not infallible. They were designed for defense, for exploration, not for facing a species like the Xeraxians. The ships themselves were a marvel of engineering, massive, advanced, equipped with powerful weapons, but they had never been tested in a war of this scale, and now they would be Earth's first and last line of defense. General Kane nodded gravely. "Get me everything we can on their tactics. We don't have time for theory. We need answers now." As Dr. Cruz worked feverishly, Kane's mind raced. Earth had always prided itself on its peaceful nature. They had built a vast empire not through war, but through trade, knowledge, and cooperation. They had learned to share the stars, to build alliances with other peaceful species. But these Xeraxians cared nothing for peace. They only cared for domination. They took worlds, destroyed them, and moved on. There was no room for negotiation, no time for diplomacy. "They're coming," General Kane muttered to himself, a cold realization settling in. "And we don't know if we can stop them." Meanwhile, on Earth's military ships, the preparation for war was moving forward, but there were problems. Soldiers, commanders, and civilians all felt the rising tension. The atmosphere on the ground was heavy with uncertainty. People went about their daily lives, but no one was truly carefree. Every news broadcast seemed to repeat the same message: Earth was in danger. As Earth's defense forces worked in overdrive to ready the 700,000 warships, Dr. Cruz's team managed to gather crucial intelligence. They discovered that the Xeraxians didn't operate like normal militaries. Rather than having a clear hierarchy or command structure, they seemed to act in perfect unison, as if controlled by a single mind. Their ships could move in ways that defied logic, appearing and disappearing in the blink of an eye. They're highly advanced, Dr. Cruz explained, her voice tight with frustration. They don't fight like we do. They don't rely on traditional strategies. They move unpredictably, and they never stop attacking. Every encounter we've seen has been one-sided. We need to find a way to predict their next move. In the midst of this chaos, an unsettling thought crossed Kane's mind. What if they never intended to conquer Earth? What if the Xeraxians' goal was far more sinister? As Earth scientists continued to search for weaknesses, another critical piece of information came through. A distress signal from a neighboring planet, Destra Prime, had been intercepted. The signal was brief, but its message was clear. The Xeraxians had a weapon, something far more devastating than anything Earth had ever faced. Kane's hands clenched into fists. A weapon? What kind of weapon? The thought of an enemy with such power was enough to make anyone pause. Destra Prime had been a peaceful world, like Celestara, with a population who had never experienced war. And yet, the message from Destra Prime indicated that the Xeraxians had wiped it out entirely with a single strike. General Kane stood up sharply, staring out the window at the distant stars. The calm of space outside seemed so peaceful, so serene. But that peace was about to be shattered. There was no more time to wait. The time for action had come. "Prepare the fleet," Kane ordered, his voice unwavering. "We don't know everything about them, but we can't afford to wait any longer. Earth's survival depends on us acting now." The next few days were a blur of activity. Earth's fleet, composed of ships that had once been used to protect colonies and establish peaceful relations, now found itself on the verge of war. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers, engineers, and scientists worked to get the warships ready for what would surely be the battle of their lives. But even as the ships launched into space, Earth's leaders could not shake the unsettling feeling that they were unprepared. The Xeraxians were coming, and no one knew what horrors awaited them when they arrived. The question remained, could Earth fight back in time? Earth's counterattack. The days following the discovery of the Xeraxians' immense power were filled with tension and preparation. Earth had never been forced into such a situation before, facing an enemy that was not only more advanced, but also brutal and relentless in their conquests. The question was no longer just about how to fight back. It was about how to survive. In the war room, General Kane paced back and forth. The pressure of leading humanity's defense weighed heavily on him. He knew that Earth's fleet of 700,000 warships was their last hope. These ships were the pride of Earth, designed for defense, exploration, and diplomacy. They were massive, armed to the teeth with powerful weapons, and capable of covering vast distances. But none of that mattered if they were not prepared to face the true horror of the Xeraxians. "I've seen their technology," Dr. Cruz said, her voice firm despite the chaos around her. "Their weapons are beyond anything we've encountered. They can wipe out entire fleets in a matter of hours. But there's one thing we've learned. They attack without mercy, but they are also highly predictable in their strategy. We can't beat them by matching their force, but we can use their own tactics against them." General Kane looked at the holographic map in front of him. It showed the route the Xeraxian fleet was taking toward Earth, and it was clear that their target was not just Earth itself, but the key colonies that surrounded it. These colonies, once thriving and peaceful, were now marked for destruction. "We'll need to move faster," Kane said grimly. "The moment they arrive, we'll need to strike hard and fast. Our fleet is our only hope, and we need to move out before they get too close." While the general gave his orders to begin preparations for the fleet's departure, the scientists continued to probe for more information. Every small piece of data was critical now. A breakthrough came when Dr. Cruz and her team uncovered a weakness in the Xeraxian shields, a small gap in their defensive technology. It wasn't much, but it could be the key to turning the tide of battle. Earth's weapons could never match the raw power of the Xeraxian fleet, but by targeting that small weak spot, they might stand a chance. The plan was simple but dangerous. Earth's warships would move in tight formations, using hit-and-run tactics to exploit the Shiraxians' shield weaknesses. The key was speed and precision. The Earth fleet would attack when the Shiraxians were vulnerable, not head-on, but with calculated strikes aimed at taking down their most critical systems. "Every ship needs to be ready," General Kane said, his voice steady but tinged with a sense of urgency. "We don't have the luxury of a prolonged fight. We need to hit them hard, we need to hit them fast, and we need to do it now." With the plan set in motion, the 700,000 warships began to mobilize. Thousands of engineers and soldiers worked tirelessly to ensure that each ship was prepared for battle. The ground forces, meanwhile, made sure the defense systems of Earth were solid. If they lost their cities, they would lose everything. The next few days felt like a blur. People across Earth went about their lives, unaware of the preparations happening behind the scenes. The world was on the edge of panic, but the military kept its movements secret. In the sky, Earth's fleet began to assemble in orbit, a massive presence of ships prepared for war. When the Shiraxian fleet finally arrived, Earth was ready, or so they hoped. The Shiraxian ships appeared on the radar, massive and dark, like shadows in the void of space. They were exactly as the intelligence reports had shown, nearly invincible, armed with weapons that could tear through the strongest defenses. But Earth's fleet wasn't going to wait for the Shiraxians to make the first move. General Kane gave the order, and the warships of Earth began their counterattack. The first waves of battle were intense. Shiraxian ships, powerful and relentless, clashed with Earth's fleet, sending shockwaves through space. The warships fired their weapons, launching missiles and energy blasts that ripped through the void. Some Shiraxian ships fell, but their numbers were vast. Earth's warships, though mighty, were outnumbered, and the fight quickly turned into a struggle for survival. The Earth fleet fought with all they had. The soldiers aboard each ship knew that their mission wasn't just to defend their world, it was to protect everything they had built. They fought with the weight of the entire human race on their shoulders. "We can do this," General Kane muttered under his breath as he watched the battle unfold. "We have to do this." The small weakness in the Shiraxian shields that Dr. Cruz had discovered proved to be a lifeline. Earth's ships targeted that gap with precision, launching calculated strikes that managed to pierce the Shiraxian defenses. It wasn't enough to stop the invaders, but it was enough to slow them down, buying humanity a little more time. But even as Earth's fleet fought valiantly, the Shiraxians didn't relent. They were relentless, driving forward with a single-minded focus to destroy everything in their path. They knew no mercy, no hesitation. The battle raged on, with Earth's forces doing everything they could to hold back the overwhelming might of the Shiraxian fleet. But as the fight continued, one question remained. Would Earth's 700,000 warships be enough to stop the alien invaders, or would humanity be forced to watch as their world fell? The fate of the human race hung in the balance. The Shiraxians strike. As Earth's warships engaged the Shiraxian fleet, the battle quickly escalated into something far worse than anyone had anticipated. Despite the courage of Earth's soldiers, the sheer power of the Shiraxians was undeniable. Their ships were faster, their weapons more destructive, and their strategy was like a well-oiled machine. Every time Earth's ships gained ground, the Shiraxians countered with an overwhelming wave of firepower that pushed them back. The first few skirmishes had been tough but manageable. Earth's warships used their numbers and advanced weaponry to strike hard, exploiting the weaknesses in the Shiraxian shields whenever they could. But now, with the full might of the Shiraxian fleet arriving, it became clear that Earth's forces were not enough. The invaders had more ships, stronger shields, and weapons that could shatter even the most fortified defenses. At the heart of the battle, General Kane watched as his warships were slowly being pushed back. His fingers tightened around the command chair. Earth's ships were taking hits from all sides, and the losses were mounting. Some of the fleet's most advanced warships had already been destroyed. The skies above Earth, once a symbol of hope, were now filled with the wreckage of battle. The first major strike came when the Xeraxian fleet unleashed a devastating weapon that Earth had never encountered before, a colossal energy pulse that hit one of Earth's largest warships, the Vanguard. The ship was torn apart in a flash of light, the explosion sending shockwaves across the battlefield. The Vanguard had been one of Earth's flagship vessels, and its loss sent a ripple of panic through the ranks. "We've lost the Vanguard," a lieutenant reported, his voice shaking. "The enemy's weapons are unlike anything we've seen. We can't even get close to them without losing half our fleet." Kane's heart sank. This wasn't just a fight for Earth's colonies. It was a fight for humanity's survival. If they lost too many warships, they wouldn't have enough forces left to mount a defense. Desperation began to creep into his mind, but he couldn't afford to show it. There was still hope. Earth's soldiers had fought worse battles before. This wasn't the time to give up. As the battle raged, a new strategy began to emerge. The Xeraxians, sensing the human resistance, shifted their focus toward Earth's major cities. Their next move was to strike Earth itself, directly targeting the heart of the planet. Their weapons weren't just designed for space battles. They could also devastate entire cities with terrifying precision. News from Earth's ground forces was equally grim. The Xeraxians had begun launching smaller assault ships, sending them down to Earth's surface. The aliens were not just attacking from space. They were coming down to the planet. The people of Earth had never seen such an invasion. The Xeraxians were brutal and unrelenting, their ships raining fire down on Earth's cities. The streets of major cities like New York, Beijing, and London erupted in chaos as buildings crumbled beneath the weight of alien weaponry. The military was scrambling to protect civilians, but the Xeraxians' assault ships were too advanced. There was no way to stop them from bombing entire cities into dust. "Get the civilians underground now," shouted one of the commanders in a shelter beneath the city. The sounds of explosions above were deafening, and the rumbling beneath their feet sent shockwaves of terror through everyone in the shelter. Back in space, Earth's fleet was doing everything it could to defend the planet, but the Xeraxians' advance was unyielding. With every strike, the human warships began to lose ground. The Earth fleet fought bravely, but it became clear that they were no match for the alien weapons, which were more powerful than anything Earth had developed. General Kane's mind raced. He knew Earth couldn't withstand this much longer. Desperate times called for desperate measures. He made a difficult decision. "Order the fleet to fall back to Earth's orbit," Kane ordered. "We'll use our final reserves and try to strike their command ships. It's the only chance we have left." But as the fleet retreated, another devastating blow struck. A second wave of Xeraxian warships emerged from behind a nearby asteroid field, catching Earth's forces off guard. The retreat turned into a chaotic scramble for survival. The human fleet was now in full retreat. Ships turned in all directions, evading blasts and trying to regroup. But the Xeraxians followed relentlessly, pushing them toward Earth. They were closing in, and there was nowhere left to run. Back on Earth, the situation was equally dire. The alien assault ships had started landing in major cities, sending shockwaves through the population. The military had no choice but to defend the planet on the ground, but they were outgunned and outnumbered. "We can't hold them back," one of the commanders shouted over the comms as explosions rocked the ground. "They're too strong. We need more firepower, or we won't last the night." General Kane's heart clenched. He was watching the destruction unfold from his command ship, the reports of lost ships and cities flooding in. Earth had never faced anything like this. They had always been a symbol of strength and unity, but now they were on the brink of annihilation. The final blow came when the Xeraxian fleet unleashed their planet-destroying weapon. A massive beam of energy, much larger than anything Earth had ever seen, was fired directly at Earth's surface. The beam hit with the force of 1,000 nuclear explosions, shattering the Earth's outer crust and sending tremors throughout the planet. For a moment, everything seemed to freeze. The warships above Earth fell silent, as the ground beneath them shook violently. In that moment, it seemed like all hope was lost. But then, through the chaos and the debris, one thought ran through General Kane's mind. This isn't over. Not yet. A battle for survival. The sky over Earth was no longer a peaceful blue, but a dark and fiery canvas streaked with explosions. The Extraction fleet, having already unleashed havoc on Earth's cities, hovered above the planet, their weapons trained on the last remaining human defenses. Earth's warships, once a symbol of strength, now found themselves struggling just to hold their ground. The massive fleet of 700,000 warships was down to a fraction of its original force, battered and broken from relentless attacks. General Kane stood at the center of his command room, watching the chaos unfold on the holographic display. His face was grim, but his eyes burned with determination. He knew Earth had lost much already: entire cities, valuable resources, and countless lives. But they had not yet lost everything. The fight was far from over. "Report," Kane barked, his voice steady despite the pressure mounting around him. "The fleet has sustained heavy damage, General," came the response. "We've lost half of our warships in the initial waves. The Xeraxians are relentless. Our shields are failing, and we can't keep up with their firepower." Kane clenched his fists. This was the moment. He had no choice but to push the remaining forces to their limits. Earth's survival depended on one last push, one final stand that would either drive the Xeraxians back or mark the end of humanity's fight for freedom. "Prepare the fleet for one final assault," Kane ordered. "We'll give them everything we've got. It's now or never." Across Earth's remaining warships, the order was passed. Soldiers and officers knew this could be their last battle. They knew the risks, but they also knew that they couldn't surrender, not while the planet, their families, and everything they held dear was on the line. The war had already cost them so much, but this final push would be their chance to end the Xeraxian invasion once and for all. As the last remaining warships assembled into formation, the full scope of the battle became evident. The Xeraxians, having already taken massive casualties, weren't about to retreat. They saw the humans' counterattack as nothing more than a temporary inconvenience, a last gasp of defiance before they completed their conquest. But General Kane had a secret weapon, something the Xeraxians didn't expect. Thanks to the information gathered by Dr. Cruz earlier, Earth's engineers had developed a powerful new weapon, an energy cannon capable of piercing the Xeraxian shields. It was risky, it was untested, and it was humanity's only hope. If they could get close enough to the Xeraxian command ship, they could strike a decisive blow. The fleet moved into position, the remaining warships carefully coordinated for this final assault. Kane's eyes locked onto the central command ship of the Xeraxian fleet. It was massive, surrounded by hundreds of smaller ships, but it was the heart of the enemy's operation. If they could destroy it, they could cripple the entire invasion. "We're going in," Kane said, his voice colder than before. "Brace for impact." The Earth fleet surged forward, the remaining warships moving with a desperation fueled by the knowledge that this could be their last chance. Missiles, lasers, and energy blasts filled the space around them as they fought their way toward the Xeraxian command ship. The Xeraxians fought back viciously, their weapons lighting up the dark expanse of space. But Earth's remaining warships, though damaged, fought with every ounce of their power, determined to push through. At the heart of the battle, the first waves of Earth's warships began to draw the attention of the Xeraxians, engaging them in a deadly dance of fire and maneuver. Earth's ships were taking hits, their hulls shattered and their systems damaged, but they fought with a fierceness that the Xeraxians hadn't anticipated. The alien ships, though formidable, could not keep up with the human resilience. And then, the moment came. Earth's flagship, the Defiant, led the charge, closing the gap between the Earth fleet and the Xeraxian command ship. With its energy cannon primed and ready, the Defiant prepared for a shot that would decide the outcome of the war. On board, General Kane held his breath. Every second felt like an eternity. He knew the risk. They had only one shot. If they missed, it was over. If the cannon failed, humanity would be finished. "Fire," Kane ordered, his voice breaking the tense silence in the command room. The energy cannon discharged, a massive beam of concentrated power hurtling toward the Hyraxian command ship. The beam hit with an earth-shattering explosion, tearing through the Hyraxian shields like they were paper. The command ship shuddered, its outer hull crumbling as the cannon's energy continued to burn through its defenses. For a moment, everything seemed to pause. Then the ship exploded. The Hyraxian command ship disintegrated in a burst of light, sending shockwaves through the rest of the fleet. The remaining Hyraxian ships began to falter, their organization breaking down as their leadership was destroyed. "We did it," someone shouted in the command room of the Defiant, their voice filled with disbelief. But General Kane's face remained stone cold. The battle wasn't over. The Hyraxian fleet, though shaken, was still powerful, and their remaining forces were not going to surrender without a fight. This victory was a turning point, but there was still much to be done. As the remaining warships of Earth pressed forward, Earth's fleet began to dismantle the rest of the Hyraxian fleet, targeting weak spots and exploiting the chaos caused by the destruction of their command ship. The Hyraxians, leaderless and confused, began to retreat, their once mighty fleet scattered and disorganized. It wasn't an immediate victory. There were still many battles to fight. But for the first time since the invasion began, General Kane allowed himself a small, exhausted smile. They weren't finished yet. The fight for Earth's survival wasn't over, but this victory proved that humanity still had hope. A twist in the battle. Just when it seemed like Earth's forces had gained the upper hand, a new, unexpected twist sent shockwaves through the battlefield. The Hyraxian retreat was not what it seemed. Rather than giving up, they were regrouping, drawing on reserves of strength and technology that Earth's forces hadn't anticipated. The destruction of their command ship had severely crippled their fleet, but the Hyraxians were not defeated. Not yet. General Kane was still reeling from the impact of their last victory. The destruction of the command ship had dealt a significant blow to the invaders, and Earth's forces had been able to push back the remaining Hyraxian ships. But something felt off. The battlefield, which had been chaotic and violent, suddenly grew eerily silent. "This isn't over," Kane muttered to himself as he scanned the command center's holographic map. The Hyraxians had always been unpredictable, and their sudden retreat didn't feel like surrender. Instead, it felt like they were luring the humans into a trap. His instincts proved correct. As Earth's fleet pursued the retreating alien ships, a sudden signal burst through the communication channels. It was a distress call, a coded message coming from a small human ship that had been caught behind enemy lines. "This is Captain Werner of the Athena." The voice crackled through the comms. "We've discovered something. Something huge. The Hyraxians are preparing to launch a weapon that could obliterate Earth in a single strike. You need to stop them before it's too late." Kane's blood ran cold. The Hyraxians had already demonstrated their terrifying power, but a weapon capable of destroying Earth. They had no time to waste. "Where are they?" Kane demanded, his mind racing. "How close are they to completing this weapon?" "They'd got a base on one of the moons of Jupiter," Captain Werner replied urgently. "It's hidden deep within the moon's surface, but I've intercepted their transmissions. They've almost finished building it. If they launch it, Earth is done for." Kane turned to Dr. Cruz, who had been working tirelessly alongside the fleet's engineers. "Can we stop it?" he asked, the weight of the situation pressing down on him. Dr. Cruz looked up, her face pale but determined. "We have no choice but to try. We might not have much time. We could launch a special task force to the moon and sabotage their base, but it'll be a suicide mission. The Hyraxians are already anticipating our move." Kane didn't hesitate. "Then we'll give them a fight they won't forget." The decision was made. Earth's forces would take one last desperate gamble to stop the Xeraxians from launching the weapon. The mission was dangerous, more dangerous than any they had attempted before, but it was their only shot at survival. A small but elite group of soldiers, led by Captain Werner, boarded a fleet of stealth ships. These ships were equipped with advanced cloaking technology, designed to evade detection as they infiltrated the moon's surface. The task force's mission was simple: get to the Xeraxian base, sabotage the weapon, and escape before the Xeraxians could react. As the task force made its way toward Jupiter's moon, General Kane watched from the command center. His heart was heavy with the knowledge that this might be the final act in the war, either a victory or a complete annihilation of humanity. Earth's warships remained on the front lines, holding off the remaining Xeraxian fleet to buy time for the mission. The task force arrived at the moon's surface, and they immediately began their assault on the hidden Xeraxian base. The atmosphere inside the base was cold, harsh, and unwelcoming. The soldiers moved quickly, their advanced training and stealth gear giving them an edge over the Xeraxian defenses. They breached the outer walls and made their way deeper into the facility, where the weapon was being constructed. What they discovered inside was more horrifying than they had imagined. The weapon was not just a massive energy cannon. It was a planet killer, designed to launch a beam of concentrated energy capable of disintegrating entire planets. The sheer scale of the weapon was beyond anything Earth had encountered. It was no wonder the Xeraxians had been so confident in their invasion. Captain Werner gave the order to plant explosives on the core of the weapon, hoping to destroy it before it could be activated. As the soldiers worked quickly to plant the charges, an alarm sounded throughout the base. The Xeraxians had detected their presence. "They know we're here," one of the soldiers said, panic creeping into his voice. "We've got to get out of here. Now." Captain Werner's mind raced. There was no time to waste. "Set the timer for 5 minutes. We need to get out before the explosion triggers." The soldiers made their way back to the escape ships, dodging Xeraxian patrols and laser fire. As they neared the surface, the ground trembled with the force of the Xeraxians launching counterattacks. The tension was unbearable. Every step felt like it could be their last. With just moments to spare, the task force boarded the stealth ships and launched into the air. But as they ascended, they saw a horrifying sight. The Xeraxian fleet had regrouped and was now heading toward the moon, intent on destroying them. Humanity's final stand. The clock was ticking. The task force had made their move, but the odds were still stacked against them. As they raced toward the escape ships, the Xeraxian forces closed in on their position, determined to stop them before they could complete their mission. Earth's final hope for survival rested in the hands of a small group of soldiers, fighting against an enemy far stronger and more advanced than they could have ever imagined. In space, General Kane watched the situation unfold, his mind filled with doubt. The Xeraxian fleet was on the move, and Earth's warships were already stretched thin. Every corner of the battlefield seemed to be on fire, and it seemed like there was no escape from the devastation that had been brought upon the planet. But Kane was not one to give up, not while Earth still had a chance. He gave the order to push forward. "We'll hold the line," he said with determination. "Every ship, every soldier will fight until the end. We can't let them win." As the task force's stealth ships ascended from the surface of Jupiter's moon, they raced against the Xeraxian pursuit. The deadly weapon, though damaged, still had the potential to destroy Earth if it was allowed to fire. The soldiers knew they had mere minutes before it was too late. The escape ships narrowly avoided Xeraxian fire as they broke through the atmosphere, their cloaking devices keeping them hidden for now. The soldiers aboard were exhausted, but they couldn't afford to rest. Not yet. They had to make it back to Earth, and they had to do it fast. But the Xeraxian fleet wasn't going to let them escape that easily. As the task force ships neared the planet, the Xeraxians launched a final assault, determined to destroy the humans before they could reach safety. Massive energy blasts tore through space, sending shockwaves that rocked the escaping ships. Inside the command room of Earth's remaining warships, General Kane felt the pressure mounting. Earth was on the brink, and the last battle was drawing closer. But Kane knew that if the task force didn't make it back with the vital information they had gained, the war would be lost for good. The fate of the human race rested on their success. "Focus all fire on the Xeraxian fleet," Kane ordered, his voice cold but resolute. "We cannot afford to let them reach our task force. Defend them at all costs." The warships moved into position, forming a protective wall around the escaping ships. The battle intensified, both in space and on the surface of Earth. The Xeraxians were relentless, and the Earth fleet, though reduced in size, fought with everything they had left. Back on Earth's surface, the cities that had once been thriving metropolises were now reduced to rubble. The Xeraxian ground forces were still wreaking havoc, their ships continuing to bombard the planet. But even amidst the destruction, humanity's fighting spirit remained unbroken. The survivors fought back, defending their homes and families with every last ounce of strength. On board the task force ships, the countdown had begun. The soldiers had planted explosives on the Xeraxian weapon, and now they needed to make their escape before it went off. The stealth ships soared through space, dodging enemy fire, as the remaining Xeraxian ships closed in on them. 5 minutes to detonation, one of the soldiers reported. "We're almost there," Captain Werner said, his voice tight with tension. "Stay focused. This isn't over yet." As they neared Earth's orbit, the escaped ships were surrounded by the Xeraxian fleet. But Earth's warships, positioned around the task force, held their ground, engaging in a fierce battle with the enemy. The sound of explosions echoed through space as Earth's fleet used their remaining weapons to hold off the Xeraxians. Just as the escaped ships broke through Earth's atmosphere, the final blast of the Xeraxian weapon detonated. A massive shockwave erupted from the moon, sending out a pulse of energy that shook the entire solar system. The shockwave hit the Xeraxian fleet, sending ships flying in all directions. The weapon had been destroyed, but not without consequence. The remaining Xeraxian ships, still recovering from the shockwave, were now vulnerable. Earth's warships moved in for the final blow. The remaining Xeraxian forces, scattered and disorganized, put up one last desperate fight, but they were no match for the relentless human resistance. Earth's fleet, united for the final stand, struck with precision, tearing through the remaining alien ships. As the last Xeraxian ship exploded in space, a wave of relief swept through Earth's forces. The battle was won. The invasion was over. The survivors, both on Earth and in space, breathed a collective sigh of relief. General Kane, though exhausted, allowed himself a rare moment of peace. Earth had fought for its survival, and against all odds, humanity had prevailed. But even as Earth's forces celebrated their victory, a quiet thought lingered in the back of Kane's mind. This was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, and there were other threats out there. But for now, humanity had triumphed. The 700,000 warships, once symbols of fear and destruction, had become symbols of hope and resilience. As Earth rebuilt from the ashes, one thing was certain. No matter what the future held, humanity would never stop fighting for its place in the stars.